We have another great show lined up for you tonight, so don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert DeLesso, and I am the host of Rob's Inner Circle, broadcasting live from Montreal, Canada. I'd like to give a huge shout out to the producer of Rob's Inner Circle, Miss Jenny Duhame, and to the podcast techie on our show, Patty, Lady Starlight Saragosa. We have a few birthday wishes on our show this evening. So let's go back to February 3rd, when it was Helen Alexis Yonov and Hillary Hattenbach's birthday. On February 5th, this past Saturday, our good friend, Edna Katz Silver, turned 92 years old. Congratulations, Edna. And our upcoming birthday, on February 9th, it's going to be Raj Vadavia's birthday. So to each and every one of you, happy birthday, congratulations, and health, and many years of love and wealth and what have you, all for you. Daily Struggles, the sitcom that everyone is talking about, is now airing on the Rise Up TV channel on the Roku streaming service. Download the Roku app on your smart devices, or you can get the Roku stick at Amazon.ca for as little as $30. Make sure you watch all of our productions on the Bobby Short Shorts YouTube channel. Comment, share, click on the like button, subscribe to Bobby Short Shorts, and most of all, hit that notification bell, because every time there's a new production coming out, you will be the first to know. All of the Bobby's Short Shorts productions, such as Daily Struggles, Rob's Inner Circle, Noon Hour Out of the Box, they're all available at 514brandingco.com. We got amazing cups, mugs, hoodies, t-shirts, comforters, pillows, you name it, we have it all. Well, folks, it's that time once again. It's time to slip into our weekly ritual. It is time to sit back, relax, throw up your feet on the edge of the table, take a deep breath, exhale, take a sip of wine or whatever you're drinking, and let us carry the load. Folks, it's showtime. It is time to bring on our guest on our show. Our guest is an amazing lady. You're all going to fall in love with her, I promise. She's a cancer survivor, and she's also the author of a memoir, What Comes After Cancer. Coming to you live from Montreal, Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our star attraction tonight in Rob's Inner Circle, Patricia Rodi. Patricia, hello, and welcome to Rob's Inner Circle.
Good to see you, Rob. Hi.
Such a pleasure to have you on, Patricia. You're such an inspiration. Wow, and thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Patricia, you have, there's our friend right there. We were just talking about him, Charles McCarroll. He just Charles. And Charles, by the way, we do want to tell you thank you very much, because this was your reference. You're the one who referred Patricia Rodi to us, and you were telling us for a while, you were saying she's got such an amazing story. You have to have her on the show. Well, Charles, your wish is our command. Here is our amazing guest, Patricia, this evening. Patricia, you have an amazing story to share with us. So tell us more or less, what your story is.
Well, in 2004, I was basically a new mother, moved into a new house. I had been recently married and found out while my house was being built that I had cancer. And in fact, it was stage 3B stomach cancer. And had to put everything on hold. My whole life changed. I had to, stop working. I had to get into surgery and treatments. And it was a long process.
Well, welcome to all our viewers, and I'm seeing some familiar faces. Thank you, everyone for tuning in. Patricia is going to be more than obliged to answer your questions. Go ahead and feel free. She's a great sport, and she's going to be making a whole statement. It's going to be helping you out. Yes, Esther Brzezinski. Yes, I do have an amazing T-shirt. You're the one who printed it. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So, Patricia, were you born and raised in Montreal?
I was, yes. My parents are from Italy. They both came with my oldest sister through Nova Scotia, like most Italians. And, they moved into with my mom's sister, who was sponsoring them. And eventually they went on their own and started their life and had 3 more girls after that. So I'm the youngest of 4 daughters, and we were raised in Montreal.
Welcome to Antonia Lo Giudice, and this is the wonderful woman. She was a guest as well on our show, along with Charles and many of the people we're going to see on the screen as we go along. Antonia is a great coach. So the next time you want to write a book or whatever, you could probably hook up. And she's a great mentor, and she's a really great person. You two, I'm sure you're going to hit it off well together.
Nice.
And speaking of which, when you're talking about Nova Scotia and Halifax, when you come in, did you know that there's a huge wall there with the names of all of the immigrants that are in here?
I heard that. And I was always interested in going to see that, to see if my parents' names were on it.
I'll bet they are, because I believe that they didn't miss a single one.
Oh, good to know.
Maybe the one that they missed probably went to the bathroom or something, and too bad, got lost in history, whatever. So let's go back to your youth, Patricia. Tell us, as you were growing up, what were your aspirations?
They were always to be a writer. I've been writing since I was an adolescent, so for me, this was a normal way to go. It's just that I put it aside for many years. I began to work and just got pushed aside. I always did it a little anyways. I always, wrote little memoirs and stories and poetry. I did a little novel but never published my work. So, it took cancer for me to do that. And I'm very proud of all the effort that I put into it. I'm happy with it.
So over the years, you've held a few jobs. So let's go back when you graduated from high school all the way to the moment just before you were diagnosed with cancer. So how many jobs have you held, and which of those jobs were the most interesting for you?
I found interest in every job that I did because I couldn't wait to start working in the corporate offices. My first job was pretty mundane, but I was good at it. I was working for an insurance company, and I was recognized, so I would be asked to do special projects. So that was fun. It was a short-lived, but because I still wanted to move ahead and try to find the industry that I was more interested in, right? So I ended up in the needle trade. I loved that. It was exciting for me. I loved fashion. So I spent a number of years in that trade, but by some accident, I ended up in a law firm, and I stayed there until I was diagnosed. So I love that.
And you're also the host of a podcast.
I do have a little podcast, yes.
So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Well, when I first was writing my book, I was writing my first draft. I decided to post them on my website. And eventually what I did was I said, I like narration. So maybe people will find it more interesting just to hear me say my story. So I started reading my drafts on a podcast. They're very short. They're snippets. They're like 3 to 5 minutes. And it takes you through the diagnosis and the treatments, and eventually it stops because I was breaking to get my book published. So I did that, and maybe next season I'll extend that a little bit. We'll see.
So, Patricia, let's go back in time. You're 35 years old. You have a young daughter, recently married. The daughter's not only 2 years old. You find out you have cancer. How did that come about? What were the symptoms that led you to go get checked, and one thing led to another, and then they found out you had cancer?
So I had a cold, basically, and I had that scratchy throat, and so I had a little cough, and unfortunately I went to vomit and there was fresh blood, and I was a little concerned about that, and it's not normal for me. So I called Info Santé, the nurses who help us. You can call them 24 hours a day. And she asked me a number of questions, and she made me understand that I might be hemorrhaging. So she said, I recommend that you go to the emergency room. So that's what I did. I went to the emergency room, not thinking anything at all. I just said, let me just follow what she's saying, right? So I go there, and we waited all night. We only saw a doctor in the morning. And, she took a few tests and everything was okay. I was a little anemic, but nothing more than that. But she continued to visit with me and give me tests every 2 weeks or so. And then a few months went by, and she says, look, I can't see anything. Your organs seem to be fine. So she sent me to a gastroenterologist, and I had to wait quite some time for that appointment. You know how the system is. And I finally saw a gastroenterologist. He scheduled an endoscopy. So when I had that, he saw the tumor in my stomach.
And so you had the tumor in your stomach, and it's obvious that was a stomach cancer. I could imagine you're sitting there, you're served the results of all these tests and all that, and they announce to you that you have stomach cancer. I could just imagine, but I won't say it for you because no one knows better than you, but I could just imagine what was going through your mind when that was just like thrown at you suddenly. You weren't prepared for this, were you?
No, not at all. Unexpected, because you never think that it's cancer. And what happened is they don't tell you it's cancerous right away because they want to see the pathology. But I was telling my husband that no one's immune, right? So even though I wasn't thinking that it's possibly cancer, I still wasn't completely uncertain.
So you were saying you were at a stage 3A, 3B?
3B.
3B. Okay,
Yes.
for someone in the audience who's tuned in, what exactly does 3B mean?
Well, 3 is, I don't remember all the stages, but it's an organ which extend the cancer cells extended out into the glands. So it surpassed the stomach lining and it went into some of the glands. And it turned out of all the 15 that he removed, there were 3 that were cancerous. So I was very lucky that he was able to see all the cancer and remove it.
Well, speaking of cancer, I can relate very much to people who have had cancer. Like I told you in our pre-interview, I've had cancer myself. I had kidney cancer. This is a while back, maybe 6-7 years ago. I remember when I was told that, the slap in the face I got, it's as if, well, I can describe my situation when I was told that. I was told that it's as if I got a big slap in the face. Everything went silent. Everything went dark. And as you're absorbing that, it is the loneliest feeling in the world. And there's also someone who's very dear to me who's got cancer right now. It's lymphoma cancer. And it's unreal. The same thing happened to her. When she was told that, she just like went blank and nearly passed out. It was the biggest shock. Luckily, our bodies are well made to be able to absorb such terrible news. The days afterwards, after you were told this, there's a sort of reality that kicks in afterwards. Okay, it's like there's a disbelief there's like steps you go through. There's disbelief, but then as you're absorbing this and you're taking this more and more in, and you're becoming more and more aware that you actually have this, coping with this becomes, is it difficult? In your case, was it difficult for you to cope with this? How did you begin to accept this?
Well, I had a little daughter, first of all, that I had to fight for. So for me, there was no question. I was going to do whatever I had to fight it. Unfortunately, we don't have control over the outcome. So I just needed to do what I had to. Regarding coping, I did have a coping mechanism, but it was out of my control. I mean, it was something that came up in previous traumas. It was almost like there was a bubble around me. I was in a bubble. No one could touch me. No one can feel what I feel. It is exactly how you described. You feel very alone. Even though I was an independent person, I still felt like I was alone. No one could understand. No one could, as much support as I had from my family, it just wasn't enough. Because you feel alone. So there's nothing they could do. It's just something you have to learn to deal with on your own.
So the moment you were told that you were diagnosed with this, you were working at a law firm.
Yes.
And you related that you had one of the most amazing bosses anyone could wish for. He did something really beautiful for you at one point.
He did.
What is it that he did? And I believe you're still friends today, right?
Yes.
Okay, what is it that he did that just like really elated you and just made your life just like wow? What is it that he did?
Well,
exactly?
he used to call on the phone all the time at my house where my mom was staying with us. She had to move in with us, and he would call in and check, and he would check on me, and he would be speaking to my mom, and my mom is speaking in her broken English. It's adorable, and
I know what you mean.
Yeah. And occasionally I would have the energy to speak to him. So I would, let him know what's going on. And, he offered to come to one of my treatments one day. And, a lot of people say that, and he actually did it. And that was so special for me. It was not forgotten. And it was so nice to see someone outside of the house. And so it was a nice, touching moment.
At which point do you feel you gather up enough courage, enough strength to say, okay, this is it. This is what I'm facing right now. And that's it. I'm picking myself up and I'm going to fight this. I'm going to win. What did it take for you to get to the point to say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to beat this?
I always thought I was going to fight it. As I said, there was no question about that. Unfortunately, I was very sick, so I was really just going day by day. The treatments made me sick. I was much better just after the surgery, 2 months before the chemo started. I was still okay. I recovered very well from the surgery. And I don't know, I just took day by day, because of my coping mechanism. I felt like I wasn't really present. So maybe I wasn't suffering as much as I thought I was. So, we all find our ways to cope with trauma.
So you went through radiation and chemo.
Right.
This is something very common for people who are being treated for cancer, but there's a lot of people in the audience who don't necessarily know what chemo and radiation are and how they differ one from the other. So what is the difference between chemo and radiation?
Well, essentially, the goal is the same. They're supposed to kill cancer cells. And chemo is something that it's medication and it goes throughout your body. So unfortunately, that will kill also your good cells. Whereas radiation is targeted. It's in the area where they feel needs the most work. So they target it towards that area. So for me, it was around the thorax. I had 25 sessions of chemo, 25 sessions of radiation. And at one point they were overlapping. So chemo, you'll get sick. If you're going to get sick, you'll get sick, pretty much right away. But radiation is cumulative. So I was getting worse as the time went on. But, after the treatments were over, after a couple of months, I started to feel better and start getting stronger and got through the symptoms, the side effects.
For those of you who just tuned in, our guest tonight is Patricia Rodi. She is a cancer survivor. She had her stomach removed and a third of her esophagus. And she's living proof that when you put your head to it, you can get things done. She decided she was going to fight cancer. She came out a winner. And this experience in her life, it motivated her to write a memoir called What Comes After Cancer. We'll be getting into that in a few moments. Folks, please feel free to go ahead and ask any questions to our guest, Patricia Rodi, tonight. She'll be more than happy to oblige. So, Patricia, you know what? This is time to give a shout out. You were well treated and you were very happy with the services you got. So
Yes.
Let's give a huge shout out to the hospital you were served at. And if there's any particular doctor or nurse or healthcare worker in there that you want to name, it is time to do so. So let's start with the hospital you were treated at.
Well, initially it was Notre Dame Hospital, now known as the CHUM, which was relocated. And my surgeon is Dr. André Duranceau, amazing surgeon. When you're talking about bedside manner, he probably had the best bedside manner I've ever had. I've ever encountered in a doctor. So he really made me feel like I could trust him. I put my life in his hands. He was amazing. I don't remember any nurses' names or anything because I was really in the clouds. I was very drugged up for a number of months, but the team was, I always had a specific nurse that was dedicated to me when I was receiving my treatments. And then also in radiation, everyone was so kind, so understanding. They were very compassionate. They treated me like a family member. It was very special. It really made things easier. You don't have to deal with stressing about how you're being treated. And, I'm sure it happens, but I was lucky in that regard.
And we have Teresa Pichano of Europe has made a comment. She goes, André Duranceau is the best. He works with my lung doctor. Thank you for sharing that with us, Teresa.
And I bet I know who that is too.
You know who Teresa Pichano is?
I know who her lung doctor might be if they're on the same team.
Yes, exactly.
Because he actually, you'll read in my book that when I was operated, it was the day before my surgeon was leaving on holiday. So his colleague was actually going to take care of me, and that's what he did. It was Dr. Ferraro, so yes.
There you go.
There you go.
Teresa was on our show, and you can catch Teresa. She was on our show twice. Go on to Bobby's Short Shorts. Go on to the playlist, Rob's Inner Circle. You can watch both of her appearances on our show, along with Charles Vaccaro, Antonia Lo Giudice. These are great shows. They were on. They were absolutely fantastic. Teresa shared with us that she actually had a cancer herself, and she was treated. And that was a turning point in her life as well. So to all of you who are opening up and sharing your moments with us, thank you so much. And talking about drugs, I have something to share with you, Patricia, and the audience. It's something we were discussing just before we came on to the air over here. I'm not going to name any names. I know someone who's suffering from different ailments, and that person takes about between 7 and 10 pills a day. And we're at a certain point right now that those pills are not effective at all. So one of my buddies actually went to the drugstore. They call it the SQDC over here, the Société Québécoise du Cannabis. You have the liquor store, that's a legal store that sells the alcohol. Then this is the legal store that sells the drugs. What did you know? He picks up a bottle of it's marijuana with the THC that's taken out of it. His girlfriend sprays 5 shots in her mouth. I'm telling you, this is not a joke. Her ailments, she's almost cured. Her ailments are all gone, for heaven's sake. and she's spending a fortune on all those pills, and all it took was that, and she felt like she could have done stunts at a circus for how
I
much
believe
she
that. I believe that, Rob, because I hear that from a lot of people that they use it for pain.
It's
I wish
funny,
I
you
would have
know.
had that during my treatments. I really wish I would have had that opportunity, but it's a little beyond.
Well, it even goes so far. There's a video on YouTube. You folks can go check this out. I don't know what it's called exactly, but you have this gentleman. He is shaking so much the building's about to come down. It's going to crumble down. He's got Parkinson's. He smokes a joint live, and it didn't take what 6 minutes. He stopped shaking.
It's
So,
amazing.
so marijuana, there isn't, of course, there are the bad sides to it, but in some cases, for medicinal purposes, it's absolutely amazing.
Well, I think that's why they're legalizing it, because they're seeing that there are benefits.
So let's get back to our question period over here. And folks, don't forget, if you have any questions, by all means, go ahead and ask our guest tonight. We have a nice comment here from Antonia Lojudice. She says, Patricia, thank you for sharing your beautiful story. It's very inspiring. If I may ask, did this experience change in some way your perception or priorities in life?
It has. You hear that all the time, right? That it takes a trauma to help you put your priorities in order. Well, my book is out. That's one of them. And I definitely, every moment that I had with my daughter after my cancer was precious. Was taking so many pictures once I was better. Every opportunity she was with me, every waking moment. Every time she'd wake up in the morning, those little curls, I'd like run and give her a hug. And yes, it changes you. It's definitely puts your priorities in order.
So for how long did you have to undergo the treatments? Let's say from day one, from the diagnosis to your last treatment, how much time span went by in there?
So I had my surgery at the end of September. My first chemo treatment began on my daughter's second birthday, which was the end of November. And that went all through to April. And the radiation began just after Christmas of the same year and went on for a month. So it was overlapping, as I mentioned earlier. And it took a couple of months after April. So by June, July, I was already becoming a lot more self-sufficient.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so happy to have you among us because you are deemed a miracle by the medical world. You were not supposed to be here. You were given very little chance to survive, but you had none of it. And you stood up and you fought it. And another example, we had a young man on our show a few moons ago, not that far away, but a few months ago. His name is Jean-Gilles Guédoury. At the young age of 9, as time went on, he had 3 cancers, and they were life-threatening cancers. He was supposed to die each time, and he made it. So congratulations. Hats off to you, Patricia, and to all of the people out there who've had cancer, myself included. What the heck? I'll throw myself in there. That we actually fought the disease, and we made it, and we're here telling about our stories. A lot of times things happen, for a reason, and there is a reason because of your cancer, you're actually helping out a lot of people right now, just with your story that you share.
I'm trying.
Your parents and your husband were absolutely supportive. You were supportive, I wanted to say. You're so blessed, and you're lucky to have had that. And you were saying that your mom was babysitting your daughter and helping in many ways, and your husband was always there. So share with us those beautiful moments that you had with your loved ones that chipped in to make your life a little better.
Well, my mom moved in with me actually because she had to take care of my daughter. And so yes, she took care of the household, she took care of my daughter, she took care of me. I have 3 sisters, and they're all married, and definitely they were always helping out my mom as much as they could. They were all being very supportive. my husband would take me to my treatments. One of my sisters, she didn't work on Mondays, so she would give him a day off, and she would drive me to the hospital for my radiation. So, I mean, look, it goes. My husband's always telling me that the nurses would always say that she's very bien entourée. So I was very well supported. I always had family around, and I'm very lucky. And unfortunately, not everyone has that kind of support system. This is why volunteering is important. And, I would suggest maybe your friend with the lymphoma to call Hope and Cope, and they can pair him or her with a volunteer who's had the same cancer. And it's so important to share that, that with someone who's already been through it.
So how long is it now that you have been in remission?
17 years
Oh
and
my
counting.
God. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're making every day count. It's amazing. Yeah.
I'm trying.
After you go something like this, your outlook on life changes. Just like Antonia, when she asked you the question before, your life just changes and you see life so much differently. Things that you didn't care about, everything becomes important.
Well, yes, and some things no, right? Some things that we worry about, the little things, they don't matter so much. But I also wanted to say that, although we don't have control on the outcome, what is important for people to know is that there's always hope, because I had a very bad diagnosis. I mean, I was given only a few months to live, but I'm here 17 years later. So it's really depends on what my surgeon tells me. Is it depends on how your body reacts to the treatments, so don't give up.
So to which organizations did you reach out for support?
Well, my surgeon and Dr. Ferraro actually started a foundation, the Montreal Thoracic Research Foundation. And a few years ago in remission, I did some homemade jewelry and I was selling them, and whatever I would sell, a percentage would go to that foundation. So, I mean, I only did that for a short period, so it wasn't that much. I also went to, they had every year they have a gala or of some sort. So I was invited to the golf. They had a golf tournament. So my husband and I went there for the dinner, and it was beautiful, beautiful stories. And, it's important that they collect as much as they can donations for the foundation, for research, and the doctors to learn more about the cancers they're dealing with. And at the same time, I was in touch with a volunteer from Hope and Cope. They're associated with the Jewish General Hospital, and they've been in existence since 1981. They have currently over 500 volunteers.
Wow.
And most of them are actually survivors, but they're also caregivers and family members in various parts of stages. We have myself, I'm a peer mentor, and I help patients who have the same diagnosis or the same type of cancer. And then you have those who work in palliative care, those who go visit patients at the hospital. There's different levels. And they also have a wellness center just off-site from the hospital. And they offer patients free classes, lectures, learning all kinds of things about the cancer, about dealing with your food, and learning quick ways to make your life easier. They also offer a lot of psychosocial support, which is so important for patients.
So Charles just made an interesting comment, and he just told Antonia Lo Giudice that you graduated with his sister. Hang on a second. Let me read that from the beginning. So Charles is saying, Antonia, Patricia graduated with your sister and I at Laurier Mcdonald. So let's just go off track a little bit over here. Your years at Laurier and Mcdonald, it seems as if they were a lot of fun. Because anyone I talk to, Laurier and Mcdonald here, Laurier and Mcdonald there, what was the highlight of your life at Laurier and Mcdonald as you were going through high school?
I was in student council, and I remember I created a radio show. I guess that was my start to stardom. I mean, it was very low key. It was, we had very little equipment, but it was so much fun. And I remember doing a contest and giving away a record, and I can't remember who won, but Charlie, was that you winning? But anyways, it was that was a fun part of getting involved in school.
So at your radio station, I guess it was a little bit too early to start playing. What's that band again? It was really big back in the 90s, late 80s. Something to do with Lipstick.
Charles?
Were you playing any Lipstick records, or they weren't even formed yet, right? They were an embryo. What do you call them?
Well, he was doing shows. He was doing shows even, I think, while we were in high school, if I remember. Maybe. Yeah, he was always known as the musician at school.
Was Charles actually wearing lipstick back in the day? You know what? I'm gonna take a couple of shots at Charles because you're a good buddy of mine, and you can take a ribbing. He wasn't wearing. Was he wearing chapstick at least?
Maybe, but no lipstick. No lipstick. I was curious actually where that name came from.
Oh, you know what, Charles? Where did you get that name? Yeah, flash it up here on the screen. Where did you get your name, Lipstick? And he even doesn't know to spell. He left out the C. So, that just goes to show you can graduate high school without being a good speller anyway.
We just met up actually, and we took a couple of pictures, and it has one of them has the sign of his band in the back. So,
there you go, Charles.
With your best shot.
Yeah, he's a Pat Benatar fan. There you go.
Montreal.
So as it stands now, Patricia, you have your entire stomach that's been removed and a third of your esophagus. So the question is, how do you get to eat?
Well, I eat normally. Just that I need to eat more often. Chew my food very well, and eat slowly. And digestion is very evident, so it tires me out. It actually sometimes makes me fall asleep. So after meals are a little difficult and they tire me out, but not complaining. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have survived 17 years and hopefully many, many more. There are consequences to the cancer, like most people would know, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You face daily challenges because you have to watch your weight, and you also have to pay very close attention to what it is that you're eating.
Yes. Well, I learn every day, and things changed over the years. I'm able to eat more during my meals, and sometimes I allow myself to skip that fifth meal or sixth meal, knowing that I'll be okay. But I became lactose intolerant. Fried foods are very difficult for me, but I always manage to have a little bit of whatever I please. One of my doctors, the radio oncologist, she was saying, eat whatever you want. Have eggs every day. I had to gain weight. It was very difficult to gain weight, so I had to learn how to eat again. I had to see what I could eat, and eventually the weight stabilized, and eventually I gained some weight. But it's very easy to lose, but it's difficult to gain. But every day I work at it. Can't give up.
Some of the medication were administered either before surgery, during, or after. They have some side effects, and I'm noticing this more and more. I've had 6 or 7 surgeries myself. So, the game Operation, I think I got inspired by the game somehow. I like going to the hospital. Anyway, Pierre Boucher Hospital here, I become a tour guide. I'm actually telling people where the wings are and all that.
Yeah.
I got what do you call that? General anesthesia a few
Yes.
times, and I've noticed one thing, and I was told this, and I didn't believe it, but I'm actually experiencing it more and more. I have these memory losses. I'm here right now. I walk 30 seconds to the couch, and I forget what I'm going there for.
Join the club.
So who's had chemo, there's some side effects as well, and you were talking about memory loss, and you have trouble focusing sometimes.
I have a lot of that actually on a daily basis, and I saw a neural. She was a specialist for the brain, and she did notice I had remnants of chemo there. So she did confirm that it affected my focus and my concentration, my memory. I really, I could be in a conversation and I'll forget what the person is saying. So forgive me if I ever don't catch on, but I just accept it.
So let's talk about your book. Obviously, you have a lot of fans who like your book. Antonia has promised he's going to be reading your book, Antonia Lo Giudice. We got Charles Vaccaro, who's a great fan of yours, a great friend as well. And we got his son. I believe his son, Michael, is tuned in as well. And I've seen him a few times saying, you must get the book, you must get the book. You know what? I think I'm going to get that book myself because these people are convincing me to get the book. Let's talk about your book a little bit. It's presently available at Amazon.ca right now, right?
It's available on Amazon worldwide. So if you have any listeners who are outside of Canada, definitely they could get it there. I was just told actually today that it will be available online or in stores by ordering with either Archambault or Renaud Beret. You can also get it at Librairie Bertrand. And it's definitely something that I'm noticing is touching patients, families. I'm getting so many messages, beautiful messages, some sad, but I am getting a lot of feedback from people who are affected by cancer and who are touched by my story. And this is the whole goal. This is really, this is my goal, is to help people who are suffering.
From the Michael Vaccaro account, I believe I saw it's Pina. That must be Charles's wife, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So I figured it out. Pina, thank you so much for tuning in, for being such a great fan. So tell us, Patricia, this book, what is it that, is it a book is something that you came out yourself and you wanted to write, or someone told you, hey, you know what? Why don't you just go out and write this book? Or is it something you decided on your own?
It was natural for me, Rob, to want to write the story because, as I mentioned, I was writing since I was very young. So I was always writing little memoirs. The difference is that I actually wanted to publish this. So I set out to find an editor. I interviewed a few and I really clicked with one in particular. And she really brought my story to life. She really... I reread my book after it was finished and edited and I was ready to publish it. I wanted to reread it to make sure it was okay. I found it beautiful. I found it was touching and it showed me some points in my treatments and in my remission that were... There's my daughter now. She always wanted to write a book. She's right. One of the stories that I wanted to share was, one day I was doing the treatments and at the beginning, my first 2 treatments made me very ill, so much that they brought me to the hospital. Oh. So the ambulance would come to my house and my daughter, as you know, was under 2 years old. She may have just turned 2 at that point. And, they bring in the gurney and they're asking me questions and they had to take me to the hospital. So I needed to get on the bed. And my daughter, being young and innocent, she asked me, Mommy, can I go with you? And that kind of stuck with me, and I tried to downplay where I was going. And I just said, look, the ambulance is going to take me to the hospital. We're going to get there faster. I'm going to be on the bed. I'll be more comfortable. And this way the doctor's going to take care of me, and I'll be right back. Daddy's going to come and pick me up, and I'll be home soon. So unfortunately, I was there for 5 days or so the first time. But there are little memories that kind of stick to you and say, my gosh, when this is over, I will appreciate every moment.
Are there translated versions of your book, maybe French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese?
Not yet. I wish it's really early in the stages, so I would love to do that. I've been asked to do that, but not yet. But I'll keep you informed.
Yes, please do so, because we have the habit here of keeping our audience informed of what our past guests are up to. And this is
Great.
something we will definitely do for you, Patricia.
Thank you.
So your book is gaining quick recognition on Amazon. It's becoming one of the bestsellers.
Yes, it did, but in one category. And actually, what was even more important for me was that it was the most gifted, which to me showed me that it was touching families and friends who felt that someone needed to get that story. They needed to see the book and read it and understand that there was hope and that they could get through it and find ways to cope and, see that there is, or there could be, a light at the end of the tunnel. And even when there was no hope for their diagnosis, to help them find a way to find peace, with their diagnosis and with the probable outcome, but to spend time with your loved ones and, just find someone to talk to. It just makes a world of difference.
Something very generous that you're doing is that you're giving 50% of the proceeds to the Hope and Cope Foundations. Congratulations very much on that very beautiful move on your part.
Thank you.
So you wrote a novel back in the 90s that you never actually got to put out there. Now with this book over here, with the success you're enjoying with this book here, is it inspiring you somehow that perhaps that unfinished work will become finished and published one day?
Well, I don't know that particular story is marketable right now, but I'm definitely working on another project. So hopefully we'll see each other again when this one gets finished. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, we'd love to have you on. You're such a great guest.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you're just drawing so much.
You're a great host.
Well, thank you so much. This is so interesting. The audience is really, really into it. I must say this is one of our better shows, Patricia. Such a beautiful and inspiring story. That person I have in my life that is fighting cancer right now, I'll just let the cat out of the bag. It's going to do me some good. It's my daughter. 28-year-old daughter who's fighting lymphoma, a cancer. She's at the beginning. She was diagnosed just in time. It's very, very hard. I know that yesterday, as I was driving her in the car, there were moments she was in pain, and it was very, very bad. I felt so helpless. I wish I could have done something, and it was very, very difficult to live. And I just can imagine your family, when they saw you on your off days, it was very difficult as well. So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
But let's go to something a little bit happier now.
Okay.
What would you qualify as the most beautiful thing that someone did for you? And I believe I saw Nicola Itzi on the show tuning in. Is that person related to you?
What's the name?
Nicola Itzi. Because you were talking about a certain Nick.
And yeah, okay. He's my cousin, but no, that's not the same one.
Okay, so I'm just taking a wild guess.
No, this is a cousin of mine. Like I said, I have a big family, but this one in particular, I was kind of close to growing up. I was close to others, but this one in particular, we were born the same year, and there was just, he would just show up at my house every couple of weeks, and it was just so beautiful of him to do that. It was so nice. And he would, we would sit around and my mom would make us lunch. Not that I was eating, but we would have lunch and we would catch up and talk about old times. It was so beautiful. And it really helped, distract my mother for one, and distract me, because days go into nights and they're long. And so a big shout out to my cousin Nick.
So even though you were flooded with love, support from your friends, family, and they were very numerous, as you were saying, and even your doctors were seeing all the love and support you got. Even though you had all that love and support, just to go back, I know you mentioned this a little bit. To elaborate a little bit. There were moments that you felt very alone, even though you had all of that love and support.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments where I felt like no one could help me. Um, Prior to surgery, when we were getting through the diagnosis, um, my husband and I were having dinner, and my daughter was just a few feet away from us, and she was just playing and minding her own business, and I just had to step away because it was, I think it had just hit me what was happening or what the possibilities were, because I didn't even know it was cancerous. Um, and I just said I didn't want to die. So I said, I have to fight this. I have to fight it. And that's what I did.
And you did. And
I never
you
gave
did
up.
it. You did it so well that you're here with us tonight and you're sharing such a beautiful story. And you wrote an amazing book, which is quickly gaining recognitions. And such a beautiful act on your part. You're giving part of the sales to the Hope and Cope Foundation. Congratulations. That's just so beautiful and touching.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you were followed by a psychologist.
Yes.
Because you felt guilty that you were bringing a burden among all these people that were helping you. Even though they were helping you and all that, you just felt so guilty that you were bringing this burden on them. You had to get help from a psychologist. So how did he come around to bringing you to understand that this was not your fault and for you to be able to cope with this?
It really started, I had changed over the course of my remission. I had changed doctors and team, but it started like a place where I could just unburden my fears and ask the questions and what's my future. There were just like so many things going on in remission that I needed to deal with that. And I didn't want to burden my family or my friends with what I was feeling, because I didn't even understand what I was feeling. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how much time I had. So for me, I felt like speaking to a psychologist and psychiatrist to see maybe they can guide me into what I could do to help myself. So eventually, when I started writing, I told my psychologist that I was writing my memoir about the cancer and about the remission. She was so happy for me. She says, this book will really help you. And she was right. It was so healing, especially rereading the story. It made me see things that I didn't realize I was experiencing. And it definitely helped me. That's why I know the book can help people.
What's interesting is sometimes we could be at a hospital. We brought our mom, brought someone just for a checkup, and we're actually sitting there and watching a person who's going in for cancer treatment. You see the person is very sick, and you're looking at the person saying, oh my God, poor her, poor him. Yeah. I don't know what I would do if I was in her shoes. And then all of a sudden, the wink of an eye, you are in their shoes. And here we are. So isn't that ironic sometimes? You're looking at someone and you're thinking, wow, how would I be able to do it? And then you're there and you're actually, you're doing exactly what they're doing. You're fighting it. Where do you get that inner strength?
I think my daughter gave me that strength. You have to, what I tell people is you always have to find something to fight for. If you don't have children, you don't have a spouse, you don't have a partner, you don't have family. And I've spoken to patients who had no one in their lives, but there's always something to fight for, even if it's for yourself, because you deserve that opportunity to continue living or to find peace in your journey. So, there's always something to look forward to.
I am a bit of can you call it a psychic, a medium? I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but
Yeah.
I just feel it inside of me that you are touching the lives of many. Our show is broadcast all over the world, by the way.
Oh,
YouTube,
interesting.
well, YouTube,
Yeah.
it's a
Yes.
worldwide thing.
Yeah.
Someone's going to look at this and pick up, and someone's going to be inspired by such powerful, strong words. Your story is just totally inspiring. It's amazing. You're going to be touching the lives of many.
I'm glad to hear that.
Through your book, through this show over here, through any other show that you've done, through your own podcast. You're such an amazing person, Patricia, and I'm just honored to have you on our show tonight.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thanks, Rob.
Here's a nice question for you.
Sure.
In a world without a pandemic,
Mhm.
where everything is perfect, everything is nice, and you got carte blanche, what would you do to make this place a better world?
I don't think I have a dream different from anyone else. Definitely in today's environment, I would want world peace. I would want, no political wars, all this stuff that's going on and racism. It's so yesterday. It's barbaric, and I can't understand why it's still going on. I really would want that with health for everybody. I mean, everyone, I think, wants that, right?
Have you been asked to be a public speaker to talk about cancer awareness? Have people approached you because you have such a beautiful testimony? My hunch is that if you haven't been approached, you will be approached sometime soon.
Well, I would be very interested in doing that. Again, that goes to help people, right? It offers people that little piece of hope that they're not alone, that someone's gotten through a bad diagnosis. So definitely that would be something I would love to do for people.
Patricia, your closing words for tonight. Advice you have for someone who's just been diagnosed with cancer. What does he or she do? What are the resources? What do you advise these people to do?
Definitely seek out your best team. Find your support system. Find your reason to fight, and don't give up. And you can definitely get in touch with Hope and Cope. There are volunteers for so many different cancers. There are support groups. There's the wellness center where you can just go and read a book or take a class. It's all available to you. There are a lot of peer mentors as well. So people like me, if it's stomach cancer, I will contact the patient or the family member, because sometimes it's the family member who wants the support. And we will, share our stories and our fears, because we understand each other. So I think there's a connection there that can help one another.
So for our audience, Patricia, Rodi's book, What Comes After Cancer, is available at Amazon worldwide. You can get the audio version as of today. Congratulations for that as well. It's going to be available in bookstores soon. Renaud Bray, Archambault, perhaps other outlets as well in the future. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it's going to be translated in many languages, because it would be fun for someone who's Greek to be able to read such an inspirational story.
Yeah, of course.
Patricia, you going to stick around for the meet and greet after the show?
I will.
This is a privilege. Only our guests to hang out with Rob, Patty, and Jenny after the show.
Then I feel privileged. Thank you so much.
Great. So hang on. We'll come right back to you, Patricia. And
thanks, everyone.
There you go. I was about to say that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Patricia tonight. Hang on, Patricia. Well, there you have it. That was our guest tonight. An amazing and inspiring story from Patricia Rodi, who was a cancer survivor. She was at stage 3B. She had stomach cancer. She had her stomach removed and a third of her esophagus removed as well. She is a miracle. She's here today. And wow, what a fighter and what an amazing story. This upcoming Wednesday, noon hour out of the box, I'm going to be co-hosting with Esther Brzezinski, and our topic is going to be burnout. We're going to have a special guest, Mr. Duncan So from the Burnout Clinic. And you can also tune in to Noon Hour Out of the Box every Saturday at accessradio.ca. And this upcoming Saturday, February 12th, from noon to 3, we will meet a few guests to discuss toxic relationships. We will also have a very special presentation from Jenny's Fun Facts. Next week on Rob's Inner Circle, we'll be presenting a very special Valentine's Day special with the creative duo Noah A. Waters, who's a writer and director, and Asia Loren, who's a lead actress and producer of the short film Relationship Killers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in and participating in this amazing show. We're going to be seeing you next week, same time, same place, and same reason. From now to then, God bless and be careful out there. Ciao, everybody.